The challenge for any integrated company, such as an automobile manufacturer, is that all the time and money that it takes to test and engineer and sell each model means they have to sell a lot of that car to justify the green lighting of its production. What we end up with is this: thousands of perfectly acceptable mainstream automobiles. They sort of sit in the center of a Venn diagram of economy and design and performance and all the features that you, the consumer, want to see in their automobiles. And what we end up with is very few vehicles that stand out. We don't tend to get vehicles that are special.
And who can blame the car companies? I mean, even high-performance models like the BMW M3 are built on mass-market platforms. They have to be, or the crazy guys in design and engineering that want to bring them to life would be locked out of the building by the suits and accounting. Once we realized that lots of astounding cars are dulled down by the fact that car companies need to save cost and reuse platforms and use other cost-efficient measures, it's easy to vilify the suits and determine that they're here to spoil our fun. But maybe, just maybe, sometimes the suits want exciting cars too. Let me have your attention for a moment. Because you're talking about what? You're talking about the Cadillac in this month's sales contest? You don't want a Cadillac. Cadillac's not exciting. That's what I'm here about. I'm here for Mitch and Murray. I'm here to talk about the fact that we need more exciting cars. I drove here in an $80,000 BMW, and it's nice. It's a BMW. But it's $80,000. It's a lot of money for a car. Do you know what it takes to make really exciting automobiles? No, really. Let me show you.
Conceived in Japan and born in California, the Lexus LC concept became the Lexus LC500, and it proves that some in the automotive design community still have these. Debuting at the 2012 Detroit Auto Show, the LC blew minds. The reaction this car received was all Akio Toyota needed to hear, and he told the LC designers to make the vehicle happen as a production car. And at the Toyota Lexus design think tank Calty, that's exactly what the team did. From Newport Beach came a rolling piece of art, almost unchanged from concept form. Boasting a collection of firsts and brimming with tomorrow's technology, the LC succeeded in delivering what Toyota leadership demanded: an emotional and exciting car for flagship brand Lexus. It is a machine that merges the engineering and reliability of Toyota with the brilliant pantomime of a no-holds-barred prototype that happens to be legal on the road. So what makes this car so notable? Well, it's clear that Lexus wasn't trying to make a supercar. They'd already done that with the LFA. But with a naturally aspirated V8 that makes 481 horsepower and exotic materials, it's not a cheap car either. Except for a sub-4 second 0 to 60 time, this car has just about everything that makes a car a supercar. Maybe it's the world's best GT car. Well, I'm not Jeremy Clarkson, so I haven't driven all the contenders, but damn, this has got to be in the top 5. And the LC isn't a car you'll see on every street corner, so the price you pay comes with knowing it's not a car you'll see all over town. In 2020, only about 1,300 LCs were sold in the US, compared with its benchmark, the Porsche 911, that sold 8,000 in the same period. You get a sense of the exclusivity of this car, and it feels like you're driving a concept car around town, and the looks you get confirm that. Need more confirmation that the bean counters didn't get to pull rank on the designers and engineers when they were making the LC? Let's look at some facts. The designers wanted the hood slung low on the LC, but the size of the V8 made that a challenge. So what to do? Design an entirely front new suspension for the LC that allows for these low sculpted lines on the nose. And then install explosive charges in the hood, so in the event of a pedestrian impact, the severity is mitigated. And what about lighting? All the rage these days. For the LC, not only did designers create this daytime running light by making one continuous and densely packed LED light bar that protrudes into the headlight housing, but for the housing itself, they designed the tightest and smallest cluster of LEDs ever fitted to a production car. This was made necessary by, once again, design leading function, because they wanted the headlight housing to be proportionate to the rest of the front of the car. The materials the designers used to make the LC sure sound like a supercar. Carbon fiber roof to keep the center of gravity low, carbon fiber reinforced plastic in the doors and the trunk lid to reduce weight, generous amounts of aluminum and steel where it counts. The LC designers wound up making a chassis that's stiffer than its superhero brother, the LFA. Any sports or GT car has to sound the part, and that's been a source of considerable disappointment for me with some of my past cars. Well, project lead Koji Sato insisted that the LC have an active exhaust and that this car sound aggressive. I promise you, it is a hair on the back of your neck raising experience to sit in this vehicle as it approaches its 7,000 RPM rev limiter and this exhaust sings. Quite frankly, this is why we love cars. Sitting inside the LC is like no car I've ever owned. It's really a car with two personalities. Great GT car with a 10-speed automatic that is smooth in comfort mode and great for cruising. And when you want to engage Sport Plus mode and use the magnesium paddle shifters, it's genuinely neck-snapping fun. I'll admit, the first time I saw the interior of the LC, I wasn't sure I liked it. Coming from a long history of owning German cars, my aesthetic eye was a bit flummoxed. The German car aesthetic is full of clean lines and right angles and sort of clinical interiors. The LC is very different, and that's one of the things that makes it special. Now, I know I'll sound like a crazy person when I say sitting inside the LC almost feels like you're inside a living organism. I know that sounds nuts, but when you sit inside this car, it's hard to find a straight line in the place. It's all curves and flowing lines and different textures that complement one another. And that organic derivative and the organic mentality and sort of living, breathing mentality the designers had is exemplified in one particular area of this interior. And that's these oh crap handles that sit on either side of the passenger compartment. You know, they're here in case the person sitting next to you is driving in a spirited manner. And the handles are put into these two long pieces of framework that run the length of the passenger seat, which aren't symmetrical to each other, and they're fluted, and they twist and they curve, and they're very organic in their shape. That's not accidental. The designers of the LC actually derived these shapes and others from vacuum-forming tropical plants. To get that sort of organic feel and bring some of that motion and fluidity into an interior, they wanted to feel emotional. They wanted it to feel less machine-like. And you really get a sense of that sitting inside this car. Experiencing the LC, you realize a few things. And the first is this is not a live, agile car. It's not a Lotus or a Porsche Cayman. It's big, it's heavy, it's a beast. And when you get inside, it's a little deceiving because the cockpit is designed around the driver, the seat is bolstered around you, this A-pillar sort of sprouts from your forehead right here in your peripheral vision. First few minutes I was in the car, I was afraid I wouldn't fit. And I've owned some pretty small two-seaters. So it's a car that really has this monstrous personality of the big V8 and its size and its weight that it throws around, but it's graceful and it's beautiful and it's elegant. It's a car that has a lot of personality. It's exotic and it's a little crazy. It's a crazy car. I love cars. They're the reason for most of my bad choices in life. And reading about them, driving them, looking at them is a source of pleasure for me. So coming from a long line of German-owned cars in my past history, I looked at the offerings from BMW and other makers as I sought to replace my BMW 2 Series that I've spoken about in previous episodes. And that car was perfectly acceptable, fun, often exciting. The Lexus LC500 is a reminder that automakers are still making bold choices. It's a testament to the designers and engineers that believe cars should still be exciting. This car, made by the same company that brings us the Corolla, proves that a portfolio of products can address a broad spectrum of desires from a wide variety of people. Now, who would have thought that Lexus would have restored my faith in automobiles as high art? Thanks for watching.